Bruce is a guy that you can tell a lot of good stories about, and I've kind of selected a few of them for this evening. Bruce and I did our doctoral thesis together in the Elk Mountains. I was mapping the basic geology of the Elk Mountains. He was working on the Gothic Formation, one of the chief sedimentary formations. And on this particular day, we were camped in Schofield Park, and we were about to go on a big hike together, all day long hike, much climbing. And so I go over there in the morning, and Bruce isn't there. And so I guess his wife tells me, well, he left his rock hammer on Hasley Pass, and he's running up there to get it before breakfast. Now, you know Hasley Pass, it's about 7-8 miles, 3,000 feet elevation gain. Most people think of it as a day hike. And sure enough, pretty soon Bruce was back for breakfast. We'd been up to Hasley Pass and back before breakfast. We had breakfast and we took off and hiked all day. And that's the kind of condition he was in back then. In our 20s again.
We're in our 20s.
And then a couple days later, and I'll let Bruce cover most of this one, we were staying with this cowboy named Carl.
Carl Turney.
He led horse trips. And so a couple days later, he was going to take us on this 20-mile horse ride. A lot of dudes were coming up to ride with us, and I'll turn it over for Bruce.
All right, thank you, Tom. This is really a good story. Carl Turney was a kind of alcoholic cowboy from Oklahoma. And the night before, he went into Crested Butte and got drunk, as it turned out. And he had a big tour, 20 people, coming in to do a tour of going over Hasley Pass down into Lead King Basin, back up Crystal Canyon to Schofield Park. It's an all-day horseback tour. We get up in the morning with Carl, and he said, Bruce, he had a pretty bad voice. He probably died of throat cancer 10 years ago. Bruce, I don't think I can do this today. Will you and Tom take care of the tourists? I said, what? Yeah. So he said, Tom, come over here and get on my horse and go round up the other horses.
This horse comes bucking out of the corral, and he lashes it with this rope, bucking around, and finally it calms down. He hands me the halter and says, okay, Tom, he's ready.
So Tom gets on the horse, and this horse goes bolting down into Schofield Park, running at 30 miles an hour. Tom holding on for dear life. And in about half an hour, he comes back with all the horses. We were stunned.
Did it all. I just hung on for dear life.
So we finally get the group together. Now, in the meantime, I didn't tell you one thing. We had a young assistant, Bill McCall, was a young kid who came along too. And he was working with Tom and me, helping us out on our field work from CU. And so, for some reason or another, as we took off that morning, Bill, the assistant, young kid, he was probably 19 or 20, got Carl's horse. And there was he said, we ever have water? And we noticed that Carl's horse had a big canteen like this on. Okay, well, you're all set, Bill. So we took off, riding our horses, and so we go up to Hasley Pass, and this time it was a hot day. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. We got there, we had sandwiches. Carl had arranged for the sandwiches. And we started eating lunch, and poor Bill took Carl's canteen, pours it up to his lips, and spits it out, vodka. Absolutely. The guy was a total alcoholic. At any rate, we then go on down into Lead King Basin. One of the ladies got kicked, as a matter of fact. Remember that, Tom? But she didn't sue, fortunately. And we finally come riding back up into Schofield Park, and Carl thanks us profusely. And that was the end of that expedition. It was a great trip.
And the dudes, we were faking it. The dudes thought we were the guides and horse experts. And they'd ask, is my stirrup the right length? Oh, better shorten that a little bit. The whole time, and they never caught on. They thought we were real cowboys.
They knew some geology, though.
Yeah. And we knew the way. That was the thing. We knew the country.
Yeah, we knew the country. And Tom did the geology and the wildflowers. Remember you talked about the flowers. So.
That was probably great.
Yeah, that was fun. That was this, what, summer of '63, something like that. Yeah, up at Schofield Park.
Now,
What's the next one?
Bruce has a penchant for leaving things. So we already talked about
It's
him
your turn.
leaving his rock band. You probably want to cover the details on this one. So Bruce had worked all summer on the geology, keeping the notes in a notebook. And the last day he was at Cass Leonard Ranch.
Right.
If you know where that is, below Harmel's Resort. And there's a great outcrop of Gothic there. And so he finishes his project. He's done, he takes off, drives back to Boulder. And then you can cover it from there.
All right. Yeah, this is what's now called the Wilder. That's what we're talking about, okay? Yeah. But then it was run by, it was called the Elsinore Cattle Corporation, run by Cass Leonard, was the manager. I'm sorry that Cass is gone, by the way. Really great guy. At any rate, so Tom's right. I had jumped in my car and drove off, and actually I got as far as Salida is what happened. Yeah, is what happened. I got as far as Salida, and I turned around and noticed that my pack with 3 summers field notes and everything I had done for the last 3 summers was not there. So I got to Salida, turned around, and drove back. Right away. Actually, it was, by that time it was dark, so I stayed overnight. I camped out at the Monarch Pass campground, which there was a campground back there. Came back over the pass, came back to the area where I think I had parked the car, and I was walking around back and forth looking, and old Cass Leonard comes around and holds up my pack and said, "Looking for something, Sonny?" He says, "I saw this on the road yesterday and I figured you'd come back." He saved my life. You might know that Connie Leonard, who married Cass Leonard's son, was the Department of Music secretary for many, many years. And anyway, I still owe the Leonards a lot.
Stay up there, Bruce.
One more.
I'll just introduce this one. Bruce's first sabbatical, he got a sabbatical every 7 years. He studied the geology of the West Elk Mountains. And so he was on a hike over the high West Elks, above timberline. That evening, they were going to get down to a stream where they could go fishing. Gets down to the stream, no fishing rod. Take it from there, Bruce.
Yeah. Yeah, this was, I had taken some pictures on top of the middle baldy, I think is what it was. And so I'd laid down my fly rod for a minute to take a picture. And as I am somewhat prone to being a little absent-minded, I left it there, went all the way down to the bottom. So I came back up, I couldn't find it anywhere. Nowhere. Looked all over the place. We came back that way, as a matter of fact. So, fast forward, maybe 1 or 2 years later, we had some students. There was a kid called Wayne Meredith. Anybody know Wayne Meredith? Yeah. Who's a good friend of Bob. Yeah.
How old did you say you are?
Yeah, right. At any rate, I remember Wayne Meredith, and he was taking classes from me, and somehow or other something came up about a fly rod, and he said, "You know, the funniest thing, I was riding horseback with my dad, and we were over the Baldies, and we came across this fly rod."
And he said, "That's mine." I said, "Oh yeah."
He said, "Well, what happened was my dad's got a bad temper, and as we were riding down the trail, the horse got ornery, and he took my fly rod and he slapped the horse and he broke it." So that was the end of my fly rod. True story.
Yeah.
True story.
This next one has to do with patience. Who do you think has more patience? Me or Bruce? On this occasion, we're both headed out for a field trip. I had my physical geology class. We're going to go to Cochetope Canyon. We're going east on Highway 58 miles, turn up Cochetope Canyon. Bruce had an advanced class, cinematology or stratigraphy. He was also going to go 8 miles east on Highway 50 up Cochetope Canyon. So we pull out there in our vans, and there's road construction, and cars are backed way up. And so I decided, well, I'll wait it out. And I waited about 15 minutes, and they opened the road, we got around. Bruce, on the other hand,
Wait a minute, I can't wait this long. Actually, I had about 5 or 6 students in the back end of my '74 Dodge pickup with a mattress in the back end. Boys only in the back end. Yeah, actually, John Kaminsky knows this story, as a matter of fact, because he helped kind of immortalize it later with a drawing. So we had 4 or 5 guys in the back end of my pickup truck, and I had Janelle Pike in the front end with me. And I said, Janelle, take this map and show me how to get out of here. Let's go back through Hartman Rocks, and we'll hit Cochetope Canyon. Well, as we're going,
Gold Basin Road.
yeah, through the Gold Basin Road. Yeah,
Some dirt roads up there.
Yeah.
That wind around.
And we found a place called Merry-Go-Round Gulch. Ever heard of Merry-Go-Round Gulch? Well, we went Merry-Go-Round Gulch. And finally, we found a road that went out to Highway, what is it? What's 114? Yeah, we finally got there about 5 o'clock when we were supposed to go. All this time, there was one kid with us called Jerry Eller, who had a softball tournament game to go to that night. It started at 5, and he was screaming at me the whole time. At any rate,
I'm the pitcher,
yeah, right. We finally got back to town about 5:45 for Jerry in time to strike out in the final innings of the game.
Wow.
Okay, just maybe one more.
One more story.
Bruce had some great summer jobs over the years, and I think the best one he ever had. Back in the last boom, the previous boom of oil, which was in the 80s, all the companies had a lot of money. In their small company, they had their company jet. They bought a condo on Dos Rios Island, and this was their R&R location. And they wanted somebody to show them around, and so Bruce became the R&R director for this oil company. Tell them some of the things you did for them.
Well, I took them fishing on the Savoia. That's a private property that they own, by the way. I took them down the San Juan River for a field trip. Yeah, that was my job for the summer. I actually did do a little bit of geology for them too. Yeah, there was an outfit called Gadsco, which, by the way, is owned by Sam Noble Drilling. Some of you who know anything about the oil industry know about Noble Drilling. It was a big outfit, so I was working for those guys. But I did do some. I made some
You
maps.
bought them mountain bikes, right?
Yeah, I bought the mountain bikes. I bought them.
Raft the river.
I bought a raft. Yeah, it was all a lot of fun. That was my job for the summer. All right. Anybody else want to say anything?
What about